Hey guys, welcome to the Conquer Food podcast. My name is Craig Williams, your host today, and the podcast that follows, I've got an interview with a guy called Mark Neale, who is a current client of ours at Team Bootcamp, but he's lost a significant amount of weight in just a handful of weeks, and he's going to share a lot of those secrets. So stay tuned for that. Before though, whatever platform you're listening to or listening to us on, please consider subscribing. One, it lets us know that we're providing the right information for you, but also helps other people that are struggling with food, fitness, or lifestyle to find us, and that's what's key. So consider subscribing and leave us a review, especially on iTunes, because that really does have a huge effect. And also, if you want a little bit of help, daily help with inspiration, motivation, perhaps daily workouts, food tips and strategies, then consider joining our private Facebook group. It's private because sometimes people don't want to share stuff about their weight and that kind of stuff. So all in good taste. If you head over to Facebook and type in Conquer Food and Fitness or by Team Bootcamp, you'll be able to find us. Or the actual URL is facebook.com/Conquer Food Community. Okay, and there's a community of people in there that share tips and tricks and all their wins and stuff every day. And I'm in there pretty constantly putting in little bits of advice, and I get the whole team from Team Bootcamp to contribute as well. So get yourself in a group. It's a powerful place, especially now if you're stuck at home. And hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, the lockdown will have passed. Anyway, let's get into this today's podcast with Mark Neale. Take care. Welcome to the Conquer Food podcast with Craig and Paula Williams, where we share tips, tricks and strategies from the coalface of the weight loss industry in the UK. We're going to help you to think, eat and move better. Ultimately, we're going to help you finally gain control and conquer food. Hey up, how's it going? Welcome to the Conquer Food podcast. I've got a great guest for you today with some mega insight into a massive chunk of weight loss. His name's Mark Neale. He's been staying with us for, you did about 33 days of actual boot camp at Team Bootcamp, and in them 33 days, get this, he lost 17 kilos, which is, what's that in stone?
Just under 3 stone, I think.
Yeah, just under 3 stone in literally a couple of days over a month, which I think most people would be pretty shocked, and they'd question whether that was actually possible. But you're here, and you've done it, and today you're going to
and I survived.
Yeah, and you survived, and you're going to share some of the ways that you've done that and the things that you've learned. So make sure you kind of listen to that. It's obviously worth having a little bit of a chat about a bit about your background,
sure.
and kind of what brought you to camp. So just tell us a little bit about yourself then.
Okay, well, I'm 52, and I've always been a bodybuilder, always been in the gym, joined the army as a teenager, and that sort of started my fitness regime. And that developed from the standard military stuff that you've been through to discovering weights, and then becoming a sort of bodybuilder, powerlifter, doing strongman training as well in later years. But obviously, like a lot of people, life sort of overtakes you. Yeah. Especially when you get to middle age, and certainly for me the last few years were very, very stressful, with lots of personal problems and business problems, and of course that just leads to no motivation to train, lots of motivation to eat the wrong things to make yourself feel better, which is what I did. So my weight went from being I've always been around 20 stone anyway for the last 25 years, but just in different physiques, depending on what I've been doing physically. So to be big has always been something that I've had to live with, because I've always been quite muscular and well stacked. But certainly the last 3 or 4 years, no maintenance with the physical side at all. Yeah. So that stopped. So all of my muscle tone went, and then I just built fat and started eating and drinking too much, and with stressful situations. So I got to a stage where I looked physically, repulsive to me. And I knew that if I went back to the gym, got my head in the right place, I could start that, but it would be tiny steps. So all of my history with going to the gym and training would be would stand for nothing, which it does, and I'd be starting from zero again, like I did when I was 18. So I was prepared to do that, but it did fill me with some dread, knowing that I'd want to go back into a gym environment and want to try and do what I did before, which I wouldn't be able to do. And I learned that lesson day one here, which I'll tell you about shortly. And then I just started to think I needed to do something intensive, something really significant. My life had come to a big crossroads, so I had a natural break in my professional life, a natural break in my personal life. So I just started investigating on the internet, the options for doing a boot camp type scenario, having not known anything about it. So that's what led me here. But it was I looked at a number of different companies, as you know, before, Paula convinced me, and with your videos as well that I looked at, convinced me that this was a place to come to. So that's where it all started.
And a couple of things, a couple of angles I want to come at this from. So obviously you had a good, deep training history and training experience, but you also knew that this was going to be quite different type of training to what you've done in the past. Bodybuilding, weight management. They are different. Like
totally.
Was you nervous? I mean, what things were you worried about?
Yeah, really nervous.
Takes a good a big man to admit that you're nervous, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
I wasn't. Do you know what? Even I looked at everything on the internet that the internet could provide me with information. So not just about your competitors, which I looked at in this country and overseas, but specifically Team Bootcamp. And with everything that you and Paula and the team offer here, it really felt for me, and for all the people that I've come across since I've been here, which is a lot of people, it felt really right for me. The whole package, mind, body, and soul. And before I decided to come here, all the friends that I was talking to about, I'm planning to do this, I've got this natural gap in my life, I'm going to try and find a couple of months. I was on a bit of a budget, but, Paula managed to make that fit for me for the time that I needed to commit to doing this. And I was telling people that I wanted to reset everything, just lose my weight, reset how I think and interact with food, and just feel better about myself. So it was a complete reset for me that I wanted to achieve.
How would you rank if you looked at like your mind, your body, and then let's say like your mindset and how positive you are? Not how would you rank those three? Like what before you came to camp, what was the highest priority?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've tried to think about that because the impact of being at boot camp affected me after about a week.
Yeah.
And I was like this, I was evangelical.
In a positive?
In a positive way, because everyone was saying, you look like a Cheshire cat. And I really embraced the opportunity. And so before and it caught me by surprise how immersive being here is.
Yeah.
If you embrace it, not everyone embraces everything about boot camp, and which surprises me because it is such a warm, happy place to be, other than the hard physical commitment you've got to give. So before I came here, mind, body, and soul, I think I'd taken my finger off the button for all of it, really. Yeah. But if I can find a percentage before I started to slip, I would say that I probably put more effort into my body first, and then my mind, and then my soul. So I've had a long time of not feeling really happy about who I am and what I've become, sort of physically, and how that affects me mentally, and then how that makes your heart not feel so good about your soul. And so it is a slippery slope. And anyone that knows me, I'm a party animal. I'm the life and soul. And people that are going to listen to this and that know it's me, will just not have heard me talk in this sort of way, because it is very liberating when you realise how the pieces of the jigsaw get put together. And yourself and what you've been through, your story is very similar. So when you actually accept what's happening to your whole body changing, it just makes you want to shout from the rooftops. It's incredible what you do.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, thank you very much, but you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a program that it works, but you've got to work it. And from my point of view, you rocked up, and within minutes we was just like, right, he's going to embrace this, like, you know. And I think it does take a lot of humility and a lot of faith to run with something. And at boot camp, because we really do look at changing so many things all at once, and that's why you've got to immerse yourself in it.
Even when I pulled up in the car, the first Friday night I turned up here, and I remember pulling into the driveway, and there's the house, and up until then I've only seen it on the videos and all the stuff on the internet, and my heart started racing, and I was the first car here because there was no cars on the drive, so I've pulled up outside the front, and I've sat there, and I've gone, right, Marky, here we go. I took a deep breath, and I didn't gorge on any food driving up here. I was really good, and for a few days beforehand, I wound myself off all the horrible habits as much as I could. Stopped drinking and stopped eating takeaway food, and just tried to wean myself for a few days so that it wasn't a massive shock as far as food's concerned. And it actually wasn't, and I embraced the diet straight away, and people in the first week or two, people that were coming just for a week, were talking to me about, I'm always so hungry. And I said, do you know what? I've not been hungry once, with the food here, not once. And look at the size of me, and there's people that are 8 or 9 stone that are starving and craving food every 3 or 4 hours. So I don't know how that my metabolism must have just embraced the paleo diet really well.
No, I think you very smart and astute thing to do is, to start weaning yourself off, because, I always say, think about this, describe all the symptoms that you would expect if you feel like you're hungry, and people go, oh, yeah, well, headaches, I feel a bit nauseous, I've got no energy, all this kind of stuff. And you go, well, actually, if you did like a true fast, and I'm not talking about starving yourself, I'm talking about fasting. Yeah. You feel energized. Think about like time as a caveman or a cave woman. Like, would it serve us to feel sick, to have like blurred vision, no energy? You know what I mean? To be irritable. When we needed to go and get food the most, and it wouldn't.
That's right. Yeah.
And then when you say, right now, describe the symptoms you would expect from withdrawing from drugs or alcohol, it suddenly clicks. Like, hang on a minute, I'm not hungry. I'm withdrawing from sugar. These are withdrawal symptoms from. So when they're saying I'm starving, I'm this, I'm that. No, you're withdrawing from sugar, and you very smartly did a few days of starting to wean yourself off that, and you didn't have a massive binge on the way here, and you reap the rewards.
Yeah.
So you arrived at camp, and we talked about, had you set some expectations for yourself? I mean, you'd been fit in the past, you'd been in the army before. Was you worried that you might be at the back of the group, or you might not be fit enough? Or
I mean, in my head, I still feel like I was capable physically of everything I've done.
Everyone still feels like they're 18 in the red.
Yeah, but I physically hadn't done anything for 4 years, nothing, And even though in my head I've got all the memory and I've got all the images in my mind of what I've achieved physically over the years and how I've looked and how I felt, they're still there. But of course, expectations were, when I first started investigating it, obviously, your media claims of, lose between 8 and 10 pounds, guarantee you can lose that in a week. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. People go to Weight Watchers, and if they lose 2 pounds, they throw a party for them, in a week. Yeah. But that's living in the real world. This is a controlled environment, which I really wanted to be. That's what I needed. I needed to be in a controlled environment. The military style timings and the training methodology, fits with my personality. It's not something I'm not, I'm used to that a long time ago, but it's still ingrained in me, same as it is with you. So, I was hopeful that, a couple of stone, 3 stone. And I think the first thing you said to me when I arrived, when you did your little talk in the evening, was, you'll lose 4 stone. Easily you'll lose 4 stone, redistribute muscle, but you'll definitely leave here at least 4 stone lighter. So I'm well on course to exceeding that even. So
how long did you come for originally?
2 months.
Yeah, 2 months originally. You've done
half of that.
Yeah, you've done half of that, and then it was interrupted by the coronavirus and all that, and all that kind of stuff. Which is interesting, because you've actually been tested now, haven't you? As in not for the virus, but for for life in the real world, like choosing your own food,
Yeah.
because you've had to do that during kind of lockdown and quarantine.
Right.
And it's going well. You know, I've seen your big bags of nuts that you're walking around with and all that. All right, brilliant. So let's talk about some of the things that you kind of picked up and learned during your time at camp, because I think people that are looking to lose weight, first and foremost, they probably don't believe they can lose weight. They might have a history of trying and losing a bit of weight, you know, on some kind of weight loss group or club or whatever, and or a diet, but it never really lasting. So was there a time when you was thinking like, well, you know, maybe I'm just never going to get this off, or did you always know that?
I've always managed to lose weight over the, you know, through your adult life. You have peaks and troughs.
You just keep finding it again.
But it does get harder. You know, and I've been very lucky not to have ever suffered any serious muscular injury from training. I've never suffered with my knees or my ankles. My joints are pretty good. So I wasn't afraid physically. It was just starting off the physical. You know, one of the things you say is you can't out train a bad diet, and I've known that for years anyway. But getting started with the physical exercises, and you know, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, depending what day it is. You know, I was apprehensive because I wasn't sure how much my body, you know, at 52 years old, how much my body could take. But there's been people through boot camp 60 plus years old, hasn't there? And they've survived and not left injured. So, and so I was apprehensive about the circuit training initially, just because of the physicality required to do that, and I'm not particularly flexible, and then, you know, unfortunately did too much on that first day and injured my back a little bit, which I worked through, as you know, and struggled with that, but still lost 17 kilos. So it just shows you what you can do if you put your mind to it, of course. Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself since being at camp?
I certainly, so when we're doing the training, that's a totally different environment outside to what you experience when you're back in the house, you know, around the dinner table, or in the evenings when at times you're your own, because you're around a lot of like-minded people that have got different stories and backstories, but they're all here for the same sort of reason. You know, some of them are here just to get their beach body trimmed for their holiday. Others are here because they've got massive problems with food addictions. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, don't have a food addiction, but, you know, I needed to lose a lot of weight and to get myself fit and to get my head and my mindset, you know, in the right place for me to get on with the rest of my life. So already, after this sort of first 4 weeks, I've completely changed my attitude towards how I interact with food. I'm looking at all, you know, I now spend probably 3 times longer in a shop because I'm looking at all the labels, looking at what's in the ingredient list. And even though I will know at a glance now, I'm now consciously making better decisions about, you know, what fuel I put into my body. I was drinking 5 or 6 Costa coffees a day before I came here. Not because I need caffeine, because I like it.
Yeah.
And I've quickly learned you can like something but not need it. And I definitely don't take sugar. I've never taken sugar for many, many years, but again, didn't really understand how much sugar was in most products, regardless of what the labels tell you, or whether it's zero fat.
Yeah, like the hidden sugars and stuff.
The hidden sugars, you know, and I was doing this with a friend only yesterday and explaining, you know, there's 18 grams of sugar in that fruit type thing, drinks, whatever it was, I can't remember, but
that's almost half an adult male's daily recommended amount of sugar.
But on the front of the
one
package,
juice. And
on the front, it says 1 of your 5 a day.
Yeah,
it said 1 of your 5 a day, but there's 18 grams of sugar. It might have no added sugar, but then of course, then you've got the other side of the spectrum, which is, you know, you don't want to be taking things in that are full of aspartame, because that's not very good for you either. So I've been really well educated in the first month of being at boot camp, for sure. The Conquer Food program with Nicola is very informative, and there's lots of experience and facts behind all of that. So even though I joined the Conquer Food program, not with a big food issue, but all of us have got a history with food. It might not be a massive problem that some people that have got real issues with food have, like gorging and binging, and, you know, really morbidly obese people that have really struggle. but we've all got a story behind how we interact with food. So one of the things that I identified, or Nicola helped me identify quite quickly, was that my issues with food, which were not binging, but I used to gorge, were based on boredom. And when you start to analyse, well, what did you eat when you was in that state of mind, and so there's a timeline between your mental capacity and what you then suddenly start to put into your body food-wise. And even though I didn't think too much about that, it's something that I'm now aware of. So that's really good.
Yeah, we kind of teach that, people think that we eat when we're hungry and that's it, but actually we gave up that physiological connection to food a long time ago. Now we eat fundamentally to change an emotion, whether it's boredom, frustration, anger, happiness, whatever it is, but we eat for that,
Right.
and yours is obviously boredom. What surprised you about losing weight or weight loss in general that you've learnt at Team Boot Camp that it completely surprised you or changed, like a myth or myth that's been busted? Does that make sense?
I'm really surprised at how little I actually need to keep this engine working, my body working, because it's a controlled diet, and other than a couple of small blips with a couple of small meals, I've really eaten every plate of food that I've been given, but not craving each meal time, not hunting the clock to see what time the food's due. So I've really surprised myself how little I actually need.
When you got the first, like plate of food, and it's literally a side plate, isn't it? It's not a dinner plate, and it's certainly not a plate I've been using the pub industry. These big plates that you get at restaurants and carvers and stuff like that.
6 inches by 4 inches. It's an oblong tea plate.
What did you think?
I thought that was a starter.
But every meal is on a tiny little plate like that.
Or in a small bowl.
So did you think this? No way, this is going to be enough? Or
honestly, I really thought I'm going to be hungry.
Yeah,
and I absolutely have to say, honestly, I've never been hungry. And you've been doing this for such a long time. Obviously, the formula that requires enough food for you to have the energy to train. And the training is really, really difficult. It's tough. It's challenging. And obviously, I came here when we had all the floods and the weather was atrocious. It was really, really tough to be, out on a muddy, wet field, doing all the stuff that we have to do. But you do what you had to do outside. You'd come in, get warmed up, change your clothes, have a small snack, very small snack. And I'm a big lover of nuts. I do eat a lot of nuts, as you said earlier. And, one of the snacks at boot camp is, some nuts.
Half a dozen is the...
well, if you're lucky. So, I'm not thinking, okay.
Well, now, if you get less than half a dozen, you need to be like, almonds.
Yeah.
Slightly different for like macadamias and stuff. But
Sure.
the prescription should be half a dozen almonds. So you can go back and say, no, Craig said half a dozen. Which is nothing, is it? But
it's not. But I'm a, the rugby was on before all the issues came on, as you know. So, for me, Six Nations rugby, is a big bag of cashew nuts and a bottle of red wine. That's my thing. It's not too, ostentatious or greedy, but so I've...
it could be worse, couldn't it? I mean, it could be, in my day when I was the biggest, it'd be a big, the largest Domino's pizza I could get, fully loaded, and, couple of beers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Watching the rugby.
Yeah.
So nuts and red wine, you'd sort of think, well, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and so no, the food, I've never felt hungry, and much to the dismay of other boot campers that are, younger than me, smaller than me, moaning about the lack of food, and I just don't get it. It must just be a metabolism-based thing, because I've never ever been hungry here, and it has been remarkable. So one of the biggest lessons for food, even though I'm only halfway through my story here, is that I now recognise how little I need to, put in my mouth to keep my body working, especially knowing that I've been averaging 4 or 5 hours at least, hard training every day as well, which obviously I'm not going to do in the real world. I don't have that much time to do that, but I'll certainly be training every day, maybe not to the same intensity. So already the food side of things been a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah. And what, you get these people that sort of say, oh, you know, I've been to the gym, I've earned that bottle of wine, or I've earned that pizza. What would you kind of say to that? Like, I mean, you're nowhere near on the old, you know, the calories you burn in the gym is nowhere near the amount of calories you can consume in one meal. Like.
Well, I mean, I can't remember what the method is now, but how much time did it take to burn 100 calories?
Yeah, well, when you think like an hour burpee, yeah, well, yeah,
an hour of burpees or something like that for 100 calories, something like that. There has to be a consequence to what you've put in your mouth. So, you know, a bit like, you know, this carbon trading and, you know, all the stuff that was in the press for years ago. I just think you've just got to have a sacrifice for something else that you're going to take in. So, if I feel that I'm going to go out and have an India with my friends, I've already worked out that what I would normally do, I can now decide not to have the poppadoms, not to have a naan bread, not to have rice, but I can still have the main meal, which is garlic chili cheese for me, and cauliflower bhaji, which I always have, no Bombay potatoes, so and probably a couple of glasses of red wine as opposed to two big bottles of Cobra. So already I'm still going to experience my nice evening with my friends at the Indian restaurant, but I've just smarter. Yeah.
And all those things. I mean, you know, I love poppadoms and I love all the pickles and all that. It's like an event, you know, when the pickles turn up. It's more than just food, and I love it. However, the you know, all them kind of stuff. That's the kind of things that it's going to cause you problems.
Of course,
things like the Bombay potatoes, you know, the starchy carbohydrates and all that. So it's interesting. So what would you say if you had a friend of yours, whoever it is, you can create your own picture or whatever. They sat in that chair across from us, and you had to give them one tip for training, one tip for food, one tip for mindset. What would those tips be? And we'll start with training. Like, what would you kind of say to them? And they'd come to you and gone, look, Mark, you know, I want some of what you've had. How can I start losing weight? You know, how would you advise them to get started with training?
See, it's difficult because I've always trained, and with various degrees of success and failure over the years. So that wasn't something I was fearful of. I was just fearful of how my body would cope with the intensive training because of having done nothing for 4 years. So in my head, I'm still thinking I can, you know, pick up a 50-kilo dumbbell or whatever it is I might be able to do that I could do in the past. I clearly can't and couldn't. So the only advice I can think of giving anyone that's going to come into this environment is it's not a competition. You know, there's lots of people here with different physicalities and different abilities, and you've just got to push yourself to the absolute limit. And you'll be surprised what you can achieve. And, you know, you see it all the time. And I've seen people here that have been so fearful, you know, women and men, young and old, that just haven't ever done any sort of physical exercise. And it's been, you can see the fear in their eyes when the first Saturday morning starts, you know. So, but you just have to embrace it. And, you know, I remember saying to people after my first week or two when I got all evangelical, you know, they're not here to kill us, you know, and it's not a prison. So, you know, you've got your own free will, but they're here to push us and support us. And you've just got to be prepared to just keep pushing yourself to as far as you think you can go, to your own personal limits. Because that's that extra 10 or 20 or 30% effort you give, that's the difference between burning fat or not burning fat, in my mind. So, you know, I just think you've just got to push yourself till you just can't do any more, but, you know, without making yourself ill or injuring yourself.
And have you, what percentage of people that you've met at camp have been surprised at actually just how far they could go?
100%. Everyone.
Yeah. Well, I did think that's what you was going to say, but, you know, it's an interesting thing to, because if it's 100% of people that you've met, hundreds over the, you know, the 30 odd days, then.
Do you know what what it is, Craig, for me? I can't, if you come here and you are prepared to completely embrace the methodology and the rules, and you don't cheat, and more importantly, you don't suffer a serious injury. I mean, I suffered an injury, not a serious one, but enough that
put you back a little bit.
Complicated me for a few weeks. Still does now, but I've still lost 17 kilos. So imagine what I could have lost if I had the mobility to do burpees and do do all the low level stuff that I couldn't do. If people come here and embrace the whole ethos that Team Bootcamp offers, you can't fail. You will lose weight, you'll get fitter. That then has a positive effect on your well-being and your mental health. So yeah, it's, I have to say, as you know, in my first week, there was a guy that, did day one from Dubai, and he left on day two. It just wasn't for him. He just totally out of his comfort zone. So, the people that are going to walk away and the people that might not embrace it or suffer an injury, but outside of those parameters, you will lose weight and you will feel better about yourself, and, your interaction with food and everything else that's linked to that. It's an entirely positive experience.
Yeah.
So far for me, that's for sure.
Amazing. And so what about a tip for food? Is there a one kind of big hitting tip that you always, or a mantra that you have, that you're always thinking about?
Only because it's been drilled into us by Reese and Ash and Reg. Colour, colourful food is the food that you need to be eating, not beige, not plain food. And generally, if you look at a plate of colour, it's going to be a really healthy, exciting plate of food, because it'll be scattered with vegetables and different styles of meat that we can, because there's, people think you can't eat meat. Well, nearly every meal we have here is meat, as you know. So, I hadn't really had any big knowledge about paleo diet before I came here, but essentially, whatever you can grow and whatever you can hunt and kill is like the cavemen did in years gone by. That's what they survived on, and that's what we survive on here, with some variations on that mix. So, for me, it's going to be less volume. I will be getting smaller plates, because we've all got this fashion now of having these huge plates because of what restaurants do. And when you're at home, you think you've got to fill that plate up because that's what it's for. The reality is that you don't need to fill the plate. You just got to be creative with what you eat, how you eat, and why you eat.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's like, most of us got told to clear our plate when when we was youngsters. What happens when plates just keep getting bigger and bigger? Then you know what I mean? It was just no wonder. People are shocked that obesity is going up and up, but actually, it's pretty obvious why it's happening.
It is, yeah.
What about mindset stuff then? Is there a particular quote or a like a mantra that you've picked up at camp that helps you maintain a positive mindset or get the best out of yourself?
It's I just think it's such a diverse mix of people that come here, and from all walks of life, from different religions, different countries. It's really international. The people that you attract here, it's a very calming place, boot camp. Generally, you have a few little moments where people are, emotional because they've pushed themselves further than they thought they could achieve, and that happened to me when I was in the army. I used to come back from battle fitness tests, crying, not knowing why we were crying, but we've been pushed so hard that it's just a natural response for your body. So it's. I'm not religious at all. So I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. So for me, it's almost like it's almost like what the Buddhists do. They try and find all the best qualities in other people and impart them into their own lives, and then spread that knowledge as much as they can. So really coming here and being around such positive people, especially the team that support all of the boot campers, which is, I don't know, what's it, 10, 12 people that support the whole operation here. Even down to, Melbourne housekeeping. Everyone that is here is sold into this methodology, and they're so positive, and you can't help but be affected, in a positive way by that. And it's, and everyone's got a story. Some of the team here were boot campers in the past and now part of the team that support everyone else that comes in. So it's a really uplifting place to be. And, if you can just take the best qualities that you see in all these people that are here for a reason, it can only have a massive impact on your own mental well-being. It certainly has for me. Yeah.
Well, so just getting towards the end now, and when you project your thoughts into the future, obviously you've got a bit of time to go when the quarantine and all that kind of stuff is lifted.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to in the future, or what does your future for you look like?
Oh, do you know what? It's when we knew this closure was coming, I was so frustrated because I knew I was on such a big curve, not the corona curve, but the positive curve. I was doing so well, and I was losing weight week on week, and was really immersed into the experience. So it was, and I was so worried that this break would just be detrimental to my journey. So what you said earlier, I've been tested. This last few weeks has tested me with how I eat. Obviously, I'm not eating a boot camp diet as strictly as it would be, but then I'm not training 5 hours a day either. So I think I found a good balance. I've probably put a very small amount of weight on for sure. Maybe 2 or 3 pounds, possibly. I don't know because I haven't weighed myself, but I'm just really excited to just get started again. Knowing that I've got the same amount of time again that I've already done. And the weird thing is, Craig, it's when you start, it's a slow process. You turn up on Friday night, and we can see on the board what's coming Saturday, and you think, crikey, that's a lot. that it's a high intensity day Saturday to really see what people can do. And that first week seemed to drag. It seemed to be so slow day on day. And, I was in bed at 7:30 in the evening. Everyone that was in that first 2 or 3 weeks with me, couldn't understand how I was sleeping for 11 hours every night. And they were struggling to sleep. And I said, no problem. You won't see me past 7 o'clock. I'll have a shower and I'm asleep. And I'll be asleep until the bell rings. So, and that was good for me as well. Having that massive amount of sleep for my body to repair and rest itself was incredible. And I've never slept so well as I've slept here. Once you get into look, I'm here for a long time. Lots of people just come for that week or two. So it's difficult to gauge what they get from it over what I've getting from it, because my journey is much longer. And you've seen people that do longer journeys than me, of course. Damien was a fantastic advocate for this place, wasn't he? And back in Africa now. So for me, I'm just super excited to start again, because I know where my place is in boot camp, and I know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of. And, I've had the benefit of being trained by all of the trainers, including some of the guys from the RAF who we haven't seen now for some time, obviously. And all those different styles and of delivery, especially when you think, Reese and Reg, it's almost chalk and cheese, but they all have the same goal, which is to get the best out of you. So knowing what I've achieved in that first month, 17 kilos, I can't even guess where I'm going to be at the end of my journey, because I know that this natural break that we're having to live with, when we do start again, my body will be shocked again, like it was in that first week. And my first week, I lost 12 pounds. When I did that first weigh-in, I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe, half a stone. I lost nearly a stone, in the first week. Yeah. And I didn't feel like I'd lost a stone. And
was that the best you've seen since?
That's my biggest weight loss.
What about other people? Because when people read...
No, I think Damien, I wasn't here when Damien had some of his big losses. And I think in his time here, he was here 6 months. Did he lose like 90 kilos? Yeah, something like that, which was a tremendous transformation. And he may well have had, have people lost a stone in a week here?
Oh, yeah.
So
our record's 26 pounds in a week.
Is it really?
Nearly 2 stone.
That's incredible. So, but for me to see that, to be told 12, I was just elated. Absolutely. You just can't comprehend how much effort in the real world it would take.
Did you just instantly forget all the hard graft you'd done that week, or?
Well, I hurt my back on day one. I just did too much and pulled a nerve. So I worked through that and was working through that and managing that even up until when we had to stop. So it's difficult to find the words, because you can't, you can see the number on the scales, you've done it. But it's such a big number, Craig, 12 pounds. And then to be at the final, when we did the last weigh out before we had to stop, to be 17 kilos. And the day before you had to close boot camp, we were doing circuit training out in the field with Ash. And I'd suddenly realised, because we bought all the kit out, and there was a 17 kilo dumbbell.
Oh, was there? Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, I'm going to pick. So I picked it up, and that's bloody heavy. I mean, that is, and I literally, I went up to her, I said, Ash, hold that a minute. He said, I thought I was having a joke with him. And I said, that's what I've lost. And he was like, you're joking. I said, no, that's exactly what I've lost. And when you're holding it, the strange thing is, Craig, I didn't feel, and I've spoken to friends and family about this, you don't feel, because everyone says, oh, you must feel like more sprightly, lighter on your feet. And I said, I don't feel any differently. I don't. But when you physically hold that weight, that 17-kilo dumbbell, that's when you think, my God, that's what I've been carrying around.
That's a significant amount of weight.
It is.
I think it's when it's spread all over your body, and even on your feet, your ankles, your legs, and
Do you know what everyone has said? I've lost the weight all around. So, the trainers, Ash was the first one to say when he came back after a couple of weeks off, in my face and my neck. But I know for the first couple of weeks, I kept looking in the mirror after having a shower thinking, am I losing weight? And I knew my belly was going down quicker than any other part because I'd quite a fat belly. So that's practically gone, more or less. But I've lost it everywhere: feet, ankles, legs, arms, neck, face, everywhere. So the plan for the next part of this journey, when we get to restart it, is I actually don't know what my last number is going to be. And I think there's a real good possibility that what I've done in that first month, I could do in the second month, because having had this natural break from the regime, my body is going to get shocked again. Even though it'll expect it when I start it on the Saturday morning, that first Saturday training, it'll be a shock again. And to go into the diet again and the training. So I think, I can't, even just to say that I could possibly be 35 kilos lighter after 2 months at Team Boot Camp is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's a reality. That's a real reality.
Yeah.
I can't even work out sitting here what that would be in stone. But that would.
Well, do you know how many? So if we just take 17 kilos, do you know how many calories? Do you know how many calories that is?
No.
Has it not worked it out?
No.
140,000 calories you've burnt. Now, a large proportion of that you will burn through your basic metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate, where you're just everyday living. Brain uses a lot. Even flat packed on your back, you'd use a lot. But it's a significant amount of calories.
That's crazy.
To be in a deficit of.
Yeah.
So
and to still be functioning and alive
and smiling.
It's
when you think that like a good burpee, you're burning about a calorie, give or take. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of work.
I used to do them when I was much younger. I've not been able to do them here because of my lower back injury. So, and which I'm still working with. So I've not even had the pleasure of having burpees imposed on me. So I have to do. But I'm a super squatter. So every time we have to do burpees, I do squats.
Yeah. Big muscles.
No, look, I just can only dream of having legs like Ash. So
me too.
So it's I think facing the future for me now is obviously none of my friends and family have seen the transition. Yeah, I've not sent pictures. They know the number, but they can't equate that to how I might look. So for me, I'm super excited to, for all of us, for boot camp to restart whenever that's going to be able to be done. Looking forward to, the next group of people that come in, other than I know there's me and a few others that have got some time left to do. So I'm excited to meet who's coming in next to join us on this journey. And then for me, at the back end of that is, when I turned up here on that first Friday night, I was just under 21 stone. And the last way out, I was 18 stone 2, which is a massive transformation. So for me, I think, there's a real possibility I could be like 16 stone something, which is a weight I've not been since I was in my early 20s.
Did you believe it?
Even though I'm talking about it now, it doesn't. Honestly, it's.
It rocks your world like that.
Well, I might mention already. Look at Damien. His transformation, his physical transformation, not set aside his mental transformation, as we know, which is as big a part of him as the weight. But it's like looking at two different people, and. If you ever needed an example of anyone can achieve this, anyone can achieve this. That's, all joking aside, I've seen transformations in Emily that was here before we left, quite athletic, bit of a runner, but her physicality and her mindset changed just in 2 weeks. And then you've got, I'll consider myself as someone sort of in the mid-range of why you would come to Team Bootcamp. And then you've got people like Damien, only because I've known him, at the top end of my experience. And it's absolutely anyone can achieve massive successes by coming here. It's certainly transformed my life. At 50, early 50, I don't feel like I'm early 50s. I still feel like I'm 25 in my head, but this whole experience has totally transformed my outlook, how I interact with people, because it's a very enclosed environment, and you've got to have the right sort of personality that can live in a communal residential environment, and it's a very nice place to be for the best part, as you know. So the physical transformation is mind blowing for me, and I'm evangelical about it, because I just didn't think I could achieve such great numbers and targets and goals in such a short amount of time. So, if I can achieve what I've definitively achieved within my 2 months, then the rest of my life, I've got lots of options, but not lots of options, but I can go in any direction next in my personal life, because I'm at sort of ground zero, if you like, in relationships and in where I'm professionally, because everything's finished. So what I do next, it feels like I've had the slate wiped clean.
Yeah. Amazing.
So physically, my soul, my body, my mind is just completely reset already. So where it'll be in another month, I don't know. I may be traveling the world. I don't know. I just don't know. The whole, the whole world is my oyster, and we'll. At the end of this journey, I just want to see where I am in all of those 3 areas. My mind, my body, and my soul. Because how I feel at the moment is, I can't imagine how much better I'm going to feel at the end of this journey, and I'm only halfway through it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we'll do a follow up. We'll definitely do a follow up podcast when when you kind of get to the end after this lockdown and all that kind of stuff, and see where you are. It's going to be really interesting.
It is
exciting. Right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to thank a couple of people if you want to, or mention a couple of people that you've met along the way, campers, staff, whoever. Doesn't really matter. But before that, I just want to remind anyone listening to this that whatever platform you are listening on, if you can, consider subscribing so you get notifications of other episodes just like this, great stories, proving that anyone can lose weight. You just got to be doing the right things in the right way. And we're going to teach you that. But also, especially on iTunes, if you can leave us a review, that really helps us to know that we're on the right track and providing the right information. But also, it helps us get this information to the people that really need it. And there are people out there struggling with food and fitness, and it's keeping them awake at night, and this kind of stuff is going to help them, and your review will help us do that. So subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with people that you think would benefit from it. Right, Mark. So just a handful of people that you've kind of met along the way, that you either want to give a bit of a thank you to, or a shout out to, or a special mention. Who are you going to start off with?
Well, you and Paula to start with, because what you've created here is, and I don't want to go on too long, but when I made the decision to come here, I'd been looking at 2 or 3 of the competitors that are in the UK market. I'd even been looking at one in Phuket.
Yeah.
And one of the last messages that Paula sent me when we were sort of discussing, and she was obviously doing her job to try and convince me to come here, which thank God I did. She said, I can't offer you the heat and sunshine of Phuket, but what I can offer you is, and there was a lot of little things that she adds into that. And, so what you've designed, Craig, and the team you've got delivering the sort of physical side, the back end of this experience, and then what Paula does with her team is in the sort of, see what Paula's like a warm cuddle, it's like it's like the warm sort of smushy, cuddly, and so, what you do is fantastic, and how you've got, how you find these trainers, they're just perfect, aren't they? They're such a great group of guys, different personalities, as I said, but they deliver consistently what you want them to do, because it works. What Paula does is just as important, because you do need that mental support. So Paula and Nicola deliver the Conquer Food programs, and Paul has opened my mind to meditation, which I've never done before I come here, and it's a really relaxing and just opens your mind and just it's amazing. It'll be something that I'll do again. So thank you to what you and Paul have created, and long may it last. And the team here that deliver it, because they're all great. They're all great people. People that I've met along the way. Again, without sounding too much like a stuck record, Ricky's a motivational, inspirational guy, and he's one of the chefs here, but also has his own journey. So, it's been a privilege to get to know him on both sides of, boot camp. And then we've got people like Damien, who's just he left a massive hole the day that he left here. It was like someone had died, didn't it? It was a really, such a big, loud, and it was. I guess that's one of the hardest things here is people come and go, and you form relationships when people are here for more than a week. So you've got to have that mental strength to say goodbye to people and get on with your own journey.
But know that someone, they won't be the same, but someone is going to
replace them.
Yeah.
And it's after my first 2 weeks, I reckon, I was looking forward to the Friday night to see who was coming, and looking at the names on the board, and that first 2 or 3 hours before you do the welcome speech and stuff, it's really exciting because, people go, how long have you been here? How much weight have you lost? All the obvious standard questions that everyone asks, because they've all got their own fear. Excuse me. So, Mel in housekeeping, she's a great personality here, and when you're here for more than a week, all of the people that make it work are all lovely, lovely people, and they seem to have gravitated to this business. Yeah. And they're all like-minded. I don't know whether, Paula puts a spell on people, I don't know how it works, but you do find some really good people. Other people that I've really interacted with well is Ben. Ben was one of the ambassadors here, and he had a very inspirational journey, which he had to do twice, because the first time he wasn't quite in the right place, and he unfortunately put weight back on. He won't mind me saying that, but he left here a champion, and one of the nicest people I think I'm ever likely to ever meet in my life. Creative, artistic, intelligent. If he's listening to this, he's probably going to be reaching for a bucket. But he's just a really inspirational guy, wasn't he? And he's very supportive to new boot campers, because he was here for 12 weeks or so?
Yeah, 12 weeks, yeah.
So Ben was a real inspiration to me, and someone that I'll be in touch with for the rest of my life for sure. There's lots of life-affirming relationships made here. And Damien, Derry was another good guy, young guy from down the road. That everyone has such different journeys, and it is mainly women here. I think the men are a bit outnumbered, probably, especially in the summer. I think it's probably a lot of women. Yeah. I'm guessing. Yeah. But one of the ladies that was here recently, called Brash, she was again an inspiration. I'm not somebody that likes running, and nor was she. But in the short, and she comes back, I think, once or twice a year to just keep herself going, which is a great thing to do if you can. But in the time that she was here for the 2 weeks, she went from walking the 5K to running the 5K. And I went from sort of speed walking it to sort of jog and speed walk. So even though I hated it, and, and even the trainers were saying, well, by the end of your time, you'll be running the 5K. And I'm saying, yeah, but I don't want to be running the 5K. They said, yeah, but you will, because you'll be able to do it. Yeah. So again, Brash was a great motivation, and it's really interesting to train alongside young and old, male and female, because everyone's got different ideas and thoughts and personalities. But ultimately, the last people I want to mention will be the trainers, because they just they develop really strong relationships with everybody, even if they're only here for a week, because you're spending such a lot of time together. So what they do and how they deliver it has worked for me 100%. So, I'd certainly like to say thanks to, Reg, Reese, Ash, Sharpie. Yeah, we have, so, but whoever comes here, you are going to meet some fabulous people with really big stories and backstories and inspirational stories. And for me, I've just embraced the whole journey so far.
It's been amazing talking to you, Mark. I've picked up a couple of things there that, are going to stick in my mind. And So yeah, and I think people listening to this are going to take a lot of faith and what have you in what you've said. So thanks for sharing your story.
That's great.
And yeah, let's look forward to that next episode when it's all done and dusted. It's going to be interesting to see where you are.
Really interesting. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah. No, thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you again in another episode of the Conquer Food podcast.